Hey there, welcome back to the 5-day cooking challenge, day 3. Today the menu is ground beef stroganoff, mashed cauliflower, and green beans. So all 3 of these recipes work with the autoimmune-paleo diet, maybe with a little tweak here and there. So the first thing we're going to do is get the cauliflower started. Now, simply for ease, for me trying to do everything here on the island, I'm going to cook my cauliflower in the Instant Pot. Yes, it is faster that way, but you certainly don't have to. I would still recommend you start your cauliflower first, and if you're just going to cook it, if you don't have an Instant Pot and you just want to boil it on the stove, it's just going to take about 20 to 25 minutes to get tender, whereas in the Instant Pot it will be about 15. So it's a little bit faster. It's just keeping it here visible. So the secret to my cauliflower, mashed cauliflower, is that I add 1 potato. This was just 1 average size Yukon Gold, organic Yukon Gold potato. And then I have 1 head of cauliflower. You know, sometimes you can find a really giant head of cauliflower. This one is not, just kind of average size. So I'm just cutting it in half. I think it makes it a little bit easier to clean it this way. I've washed it already. And then I just cut a sort of a triangle to cut the big part of that core. And I don't want any of the leaves, but I actually want the stem. You don't just want the florets. You want some of the stem part. It's a different type of fiber. Now the potato, here's the tricky part with using the Instant Pot. The potato will take longer to cook. According to the Instant Pot manual, 7 to 9 minutes for potato cubes. Whoops. And 2 to 3 minutes for cauliflower florets. So the cauliflower will be perfectly fine to cook the longer amount of time. But I do actually want the potato to be fully cooked, so I'm going to go with the potatoes time, and I'm just going to let my keep my cauliflower in larger pieces. So really pretty big chunks. I cut my potato smaller, and I leave my cauliflower larger. Does that make sense? And all I'm putting in here with it is a little bit of water. There's so much water in the cauliflower, it's going to give off a lot. We just need some water in there to get it started. So really just to cover the bottom. So that was about a cup, just a cup of water. Okay, so I'm plugging him in back here. Make sure my gasket is in. I don't know why sometimes it's so hard. Set my valve to sealing, and I want manual 8 minutes. It said 7 to 9, so we'll do 8. We'll split the difference. Okay, so we'll let that go. And I'll just pull it away from there when I release the pressure. Okay, and then the next thing I'm going to get started are my green beans, because I like them cooked a little bit more, but if you like the real crisp green beans, you cannot cook them as long. So they'll be plenty done in the amount of time it takes to get everything else done. What am I looking for? This is my reserved bacon drippings from when I cook my good quality bacon. As long as your bacon is from healthy animals, this is a good quality fat to cook with. So I just want about a tablespoon in there. You could use avocado oil. You could use your bacon drippings. I didn't include the bacon drippings on the shopping list, but there is bacon. If you have reserved bacon drippings, go ahead and cook your green beans in that if you like that. Or you can use a neutral oil like avocado oil. You could also use sesame oil. That would be delicious. You could use no oil at all. You really don't need any oil. I'm just doing it to give them a little bit of flavor. And then I like these. Haricot is very likely I spelled this wrong on the shopping list. This is what I mean. These little skinny green beans, you can usually find them frozen, and they're much less expensive this way. And they're already cleaned. Now there will probably be a couple stems in here. There almost always are. So look, there's one right here. So when they're frozen especially, they're really easy to just break them off. So I'm just turning my burner up pretty high, and I'm pouring in my green beans. I'm going to use a little bit of coconut aminos to season at the end, and that is salty. So bear that in mind. If you want to do the same, maybe hold off a little bit of salt. But vegetables have, they don't have any seasoning. When they're canned, there will be some sodium, but when they're frozen or fresh, there's no salt, which means I need my salt. So if you see me scooping and you think, wow, she's putting in a lot of salt, what I have in here is my 1/8 of a teaspoon. So I'll probably need about a 1/2 teaspoon total in here, but I'm just going to start with 1/4. I can always add more, I can't take it out. And just a sprinkle of black pepper. I like these silicone, really kind of hard spatulas that are small. It's easy to stir around without flopping everything over. So I just kind of want to stir around the oil and the salt and pepper. Now the water, they were frozen, so there was some ice on the green beans. That's going to melt. And when I see how much liquid is in there, I'm going to add to that just a little bit with chicken broth. There's chicken broth in our stroganoff, so I already have some broth out of the freezer. If you do not have broth in your freezer and you're using it out of a carton, that's perfectly fine. You can just use a little bit in your green beans. All right, I'm going to swap these. And I'm going to get my stroganoff started. So this is one of my very first recipes. I published this in January of 2016, so about 2 months into the blog. And it's been one of my most popular recipes for good reason. It's simple, it's fast, it's very tasty, and it is Autoimmune-Paleo Friendly. As written, you do not have to do anything special to it. So there's no fat that you need to add to your pan. My cast iron is really well seasoned, and so every time I clean it, I put a little bit of oil, I wipe a little oil on with a paper towel. So it's good. I don't need to add any oil to that. So I'm just going to chop and get everything in. So I have 1/2 of a sweet onion here. You can make this with a nicer cut of meat, London broil, a skirt steak, flank steak, something like that, if you prefer that. I know some people don't like ground beef. We happen to love ground beef in my family, and it is inexpensive, and so that's part of what I'm going for here. I know it is more expensive to follow a paleo diet. The groceries will be more expensive. There are other parts of your life that will be less expensive, like medical bills and medications. But this part, the food part, will cost you more, and I know that can be difficult or somewhat shocking for some people. So I really try to keep my recipes approachable and affordable. Okay, so I got my 1 pound of grass-fed ground beef in there. Here I have 8 ounces of cremini mushrooms. I'm just going to slice these. For some reason got out my little cutting board, but that's all right. I hope your week is going well. I hope you're enjoying this cooking challenge, even if it's a really hectic week, which I don't know if you can see my September calendar back there, but it's a really hectic week for us in my house, or it's a hectic month, I should say. And we just go with it because I know that my body is so much happier when we eat at home, and I love to eat out. I enjoy the specialness of that. In fact, my husband and I have a little weekend getaway coming up this fall, and we're going someplace we've been before, and I know that there is a restaurant there that has a lot of gluten-free stuff, and it's really indulgent gluten-free things like good pizza and dessert, things like that. And a couple of months away, and I'm already really looking forward to it because it's just such a special treat. So I love to have that to look forward to, but this is great for day to day. And you know what? I'm not deprived. I say all the time that it's easier for me, and I think most people, to stick with any sort of diet. I know some people don't like that word diet, but it just means how you eat, okay? Any sort of eating plan, it's easier to stick to it when the food tastes good, when you have something to look forward to. If you think, oh man, I love beef stroganoff. My father-in-law loves this. I made it at Christmas one time. I think he had 3 servings. And he's not a huge eater, and he's not a picky eater, but he really loves this. And that was a high endorsement. So having food that you can look forward to eating really helps. And having a treat to look forward to as well. I don't have treats very often. I like to plan them, then I can look forward to them. Okay, so I'm just getting this cooking, and I'm going to keep an eye on my green beans over here. So I'm going to add a little broth. So this is a container of broth I had in my freezer, and it's a little over 2 cups, and I need 1 cup for my stroganoff. So I'm going to add about 1/4 cup to my beans. And I'm going to put a lid on because that's going to make them cook faster. And I have this burner on medium-high. So this is just a plug-in burner. It's not going to be as powerful as your stove. It's going to take me a little bit longer to cook this meal here than it would take you. I just want to break up my ground beef. Once I get it broken up, I'll move on to the next step. I almost always tell you to add extra vegetables wherever you can. I wouldn't add extra vegetables to this part, but you can certainly add extra veggies on the side. Remembering that our mashed cauliflower potatoes are really cauliflower. That's a vegetable. There's that one little potato in there, so there's a teeny bit of starch, but that's primarily a vegetable. And then the green beans. I usually like to serve 2 vegetables. So if I only am cooking 1 vegetable, I'll do a salad. That's kind of our MO in this house. Okay, next up, get that out of the way, is 1 clove of garlic. If your clove is teeny tiny, use 2. If it's giant, if you really like garlic, fine. If you don't love garlic, then maybe cut your giant clove in half. I just have an average size clove of garlic. So just chop it up as finely as you can, because this is quick cooking. It's not like it's going to simmer for hours. Nobody wants to bite into a fairly raw piece of garlic. Well, I don't want to say nobody. Maybe you love raw garlic. That wouldn't be my favorite. I love the flavor, but I like it a little bit more mellow. Now I will tell you one vegetable you could add to this if you really wanted to sneak in some extra veggies would be some sort of green. You could put in some spinach or kale or Swiss chard. That would mix in really well and would be fairly undetectable. Okay, so at this point we want this to cook until it starts to brown. I'm going to check on my green beans, and then I'm going to move them to my other burner. I'm going to move them to my stove because, ooh, aren't they pretty? I think they're so pretty when they're at this stage. So with the lid on, the liquid will not evaporate. If you take the lid off, that liquid will evaporate. You'll have to watch real closely to make sure they don't burn. So this, just a little quirk of this tabletop stove thing. If I have both burners going, neither of them will really be at full power. So I wanted to get that one off so that this one would cook a little quicker. So you can see there's liquid in the bottom now. That's from my mushrooms and my onions giving off their liquid. Just keep it on medium-high. Keep it cooking. and that will evaporate, and then it will start to brown, which is what we want to happen. So I'm going to work on my sour cream alternative while I'm waiting. Get out a bowl here. Okay, we're under pressure, so my cauliflower's cooking. Alright, so the way we make an autoimmune-paleo, or even just paleo, because strict paleo does not include dairy, the way we make a sour cream alternative is to use coconut milk, actually the cream, from the top of the can, and some lemon juice. Now, it's summer. I really should have had this in the fridge so that the cream would fully come to the top. Can you see in there how it's still white? If it were cold outside, if I had refrigerated this, all of that cream would have risen to the top, and then what's underneath would be really just the water, and it is very clear. So I can tell because it's white that there's a lot of the cream mixed in. It's really fine. I got enough. It does make it easier to stir it up when it's at room temperature. Okay, and then I'm going to add lemon juice to this. So juice from half of my lemon. You can juice it with your juicer, which I think I will because this one has a lot of seeds. When there aren't a lot of seeds, it's easy to just squeeze it, but when there are quite a few, I'll do it this way to just make it easier on myself. This is just a cheap little juicer thing from the grocery store. You don't have to have anything big and fancy. This will help you really get all the juice out too. So if you're wondering how much lemon juice you should add, do you need a specific amount? You really don't need a specific amount. Just whatever you get out of half of your lemon will be perfectly fine. It's not going to be so much that it makes your dish taste like lemonade, and it's not going to be so little that it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. It'll be fine. Just juice from half of your lemon. So you can see it's boiling here, which is good. That boiling means we're evaporating the liquid. You could go right ahead with your dish right now. You do not have to let that liquid evaporate. You do not have to let it brown. I like that flavor and we have time, so I'm going to let it brown. I'm just getting everything else ready. So this is my arrowroot, and I will need 2 tablespoons of that for thickening, and then the broth. And for my cauliflower, I won't need any liquid because there's so much liquid in the cauliflower. Even with that little potato in there, I won't need to add cream or anything like that. Now you can if you want to, but it's not necessary. I'm going to add salt and pepper and a little bit of garlic powder. Now if you're doing a Whole30 or some sort of elimination diet where you can't have any dairy, it's really delicious just like that. I promise it is. We love it that way. But I'm going to put a couple little pats of grass-fed butter on top and stick it under the broiler for a minute. So that's an option if you can do a little bit of dairy. Okay, I heard it drop down, so my pressure is off. Still be careful when you remove your lid because the condensation inside. Just going to unplug that. And I'm going to strain it. So this insert will be hot, but it's not heavy because I don't have that much in there. But I want to show you. You can stick your knife in and you get no resistance. It's done. So I get no resistance with the potato or the cauliflower. If you really want to get a lot of the moisture out of your cauliflower, you could put it in a pan on the stove for a few minutes, and that would, then you can cook out some of that water. So the trick to the creaminess, really, the potato, it makes it taste like potato, so it really covers up some of that cauliflower taste, and it really makes it creamy. So then here's my garlic powder. I just want a teeny bit of that. It's like, you know, garlic mashed potatoes were all the rage for a while. So this is our garlic mashed potatoes. I like to run it through the food processor because I like them really smooth. You do not have to do that. That is my choice. So I'm going to taste, and they're super hot, so let those cool for a second. I got just the right amount of salt and pepper. Okay, so in they go. Super creamy. Now, if you were super cauliflower averse, would this taste like cauliflower to you? Yes, probably. But is it good? Yeah, it's really good. So give it a try. If you have somebody in your house who's not a cauliflower fan, definitely use the potato. Use a little bit of garlic powder. Use a little bit of butter if you can. So just scraping it out so we get it all. We don't want to waste anything. So many people waste a lot of food, and it drives me crazy. Keep an eye on what's going on here. It's sticking a little bit. That's what we want. See, there's no more liquid in the bottom. It's starting to get a little browning. So soon as I get my cauliflower in the oven, I will move on to the next step with that. Try not to throw knives around the kitchen. That's really not very safe. So just teeny little bits. This is not even a half of a tablespoon of butter. Okay. I'll stick him in the oven. I pulled out a couple of green beans to taste. Okay, next step is, it's like we're making a gravy. That is what we're doing, essentially. We're just making it right in with our meat. We're making our sauce. Okay, 2 tablespoons of arrowroot. Okay, the arrowroot's in there, and just stir it around. This is going to make it thicken. And you know what? Because I have that extra broth, my recipe calls for 1 cup, but I have the extra broth. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to add just a little bit more arrowroot. Making a gravy or a sauce, there's a ratio, and it's typically, with the arrowroot, a tablespoon or 2 of the starch to a cup of liquid. So I just added a little extra. Scrape that off. And then I'm just going to add all this broth. Because it's defrosted, it would hold in the fridge just fine for a couple of days, but I don't have a need for it until later in the week. So I'm just going to pour all that in, and we get all that great nutrition. Some people have questioned whether it's okay to use chicken broth when you're cooking beef, or beef broth when you're cooking chicken. I almost always use chicken broth because it's what I make all the time. It's just easier. We have bones from the chicken that I'm cooking, or I buy it, a rotisserie chicken and I have that whole carcass. Or I can easily buy chicken wings, turkey wings, something like that to make a really good gelatinous, flavorful, healthy broth. It is just harder. I have to mail order to get good bones to make beef broth, beef stock. And so I have chicken all the time. And the beef broth that you can buy from the store does not have as good of a flavor, in my opinion. So yes, just use whatever you want, it'll be fine. And then I'm adding, 2 teaspoons of coconut aminos. I got these measuring spoons from Williams-Sonoma for a Christmas gift years ago. And there were 2 sets actually. There was one set that had all the normal, quarter teaspoon, half teaspoon, teaspoon. And then there's another set that has 2 teaspoons. So this is a 2 teaspoon measuring spoon, tablespoon, and a half, 2 tablespoons. So it had some unusual sizes, and I love it. Okay, so now that I've added my coconut aminos, which is salty, I'm going to taste this for seasoning, because remember I only added 1/4 teaspoon of salt because I don't remember how salty I made that broth. I try to not make my broth very salty at all, but I just want to be sure, so I don't want to add too much salt. Because the only thing that's left to go in is my sour cream alternative, and that is not salty. It needs the other 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And it needs a little bit of pepper. I don't usually measure the pepper. I just sprinkle some in. You can measure it if you'd like. Let me stir that in. And now we could be ready to eat right now. We're actually not ready to eat yet. Everybody isn't here. So at this point, I can just let this park here. I can turn it down on low. It'll continue to simmer away. I like to wait to add my sour cream until the very end, but you could totally add it in right now. As a matter of fact, I will. I'll just show you. It'll be fine. With traditional beef stroganoff, with real sour cream, the sour cream might break, sort of separate, and so that's why they don't want you to add it until the end. But with our coconut version, it'll be perfectly fine. So here are some things you could do differently. You could make this earlier in the day, and you could put it in your crock pot, depending on your crock pot, low or medium. You want it to be kind of simmering. You don't want it to just be sitting there stagnant. So you could make it and put it in your crock pot and let it just simmer away all day. With the green beans, you could have made those the day before. You could make them in the morning and stick them in the fridge, or they can be done in 15 minutes or less at dinner time. The mashed cauliflower, 15 minutes at dinner time, or you could make them ahead if you want to. So you have options. You can make this in the Instant Pot. If you're doing ground beef, I wouldn't really do it in the Instant Pot. Pressure version, you could use your slow cook option on your Instant Pot. But start to finish, on your regular high-powered stove, normal powered stove, 20 to 30 minutes, and this dish is done. And in the meantime, you can get the rest cooked. So it really is a good, hearty, complete meal in 30 minutes or less. So I'm going to show you how we put all this together in just a few minutes. Now, don't forget our competition, our daily competition. Take a picture of your dinner, and there will be an award for the prettiest and the ugliest. Now, for beef stroganoff night, it's pretty easy to make the ugliest one because it is not the prettiest dish. So whoever wins for the prettiest is going to have to work really hard. Let me taste my green beans. I'm going to add some coconut aminos, and then if I need some salt, I'll add some more salt. It's so good. I love it. It's delicious, really. I hope you enjoyed this one. Okay, I'll show you the finished thing in just a minute. Okay, are you ready to see me plate up this beautiful dinner? Beautiful to your body and your tummy. Okay, I should also say, please forgive my crazy hair. We just had our last afternoon at the pool for the season, and so I don't really know what my hair looks like. I'm sure it looks like I've been at the pool. Okay, so here is our mashed cauliflower, or I should say here are our mashed cauliflower potatoes. Under the broiler for a few minutes. We got a little bit of that browned butter thing going. Doesn't it just look indulgent? And you saw how little butter I actually put on there. So a little mashed cauliflower. I'm going to go ahead and put my green beans. See how my green beans have a little bit of that, like a few of them are getting kind of shriveled. So my grandma would cook, beans that she grew in her garden. She probably canned them, and then she would cook them all day. But they were not the teeny ones like this. They were regular sized green beans, and they really would take hours to get all shriveled. We call them grandma's shriveled green beans. That's always what I'm going for. And a little bit of coconut aminos in there just adds extra delicious flavor. And then here's our beef stroganoff with all that super flavorful gravy. I'm going to put it to the side so it looks prettier. Maybe I'll win the prettiest picture. Just a little bit more. Okay, so there's your 5-day cooking challenge. Day 3, ground beef stroganoff, yummy green beans, mashed cauliflower potatoes, super nutritious, 30 minutes or less. This is like a gourmet meal. This will cost you 25 bucks in a gluten-free version in a restaurant. And this whole meal, I hadn't added it up, but probably cauliflower can be kind of expensive. I think it was like $2.50 at Aldi. So the green beans were $2 for the bag. So we'll say $5 for the veggies. And then the grass-fed ground beef was $6.99 a pound. It wasn't on sale or anything, so it was $7. So this was probably $10, so $15 for my family of 4. And that's at, at the top. At most it was $15. Delicious meal. Okay, I hope your week is going well. I'll see you back here tomorrow for day 4.